Welcome back to the Warrior Monk Project, your weekly dose of self-development, holistic living, and deep thinking. Today's episode is one which is very, very dear to my heart. It's to do with my spiritual retreat that I went on about 2 weeks ago. As some of you may know, I went on this trip to the Belgian countryside. And I went to this medieval castle which had been turned into a spiritual place, a Hindu monastery slash temple. And I stayed there for around a week with around 40 people I weren't too familiar with. I thought it'd be an amazing experience and one that, you know, would push me into the deep end, especially with my spiritual life and spiritual growth and things like that. So, to say the least, it was a phenomenal experience and one that's truly changed me and one that I'll continuously remember throughout my life. So, I'm forever grateful for that experience, as you can see by the smile on my face. Um, so I thought it'd be amazing to make an episode about this. We also got to spend time with a really elevated personality known as Sacinandana Swami. And for those of you who don't know who Sacinandana Swami is, he is a spiritual leader from the ISKCON community. He has so many great accolades, whether that be being inducted by the late great Srila Prabhupada, or also in terms of his service for acts of giving talks internationally and also writing some phenomenal books like this one over here, the Living Name, which is all about improving your mantra meditation, which he gave out during the retreat so kindly as well. So we managed to spend some time within his presence and really learn from him during lectures and things like that. And his selfless nature really came out, especially when he actually had a dental problem during the trip, and yet he still soldiered on through our lectures, and it was phenomenal because we didn't even know this at that point in time, and he delivered such amazing wisdom, even through his pain, which is so endearing, and really touched my heart when I found out that that was the case. I actually quite fortunately got to record with him, so I'm hoping to share that with you in a bit. But this episode is actually going to be split up into two key parts. The first being, I'll be showing you the question and answer session I actually had with Sacinandana Swami. It's a short clip because he's a very busy person, as you can imagine. But I thought it'd be a phenomenal thing to be able to share with you some wisdom from him and to allow you to hear directly from him as well, to really get a flavor for some of his wisdom as well. And then the second part of this episode will be about my takeaways and my insights that I gained from this trip. I didn't realize how many insights I would gain from this trip and how many realizations I'd have. So I thought it'd be a nice thing to share that with you and maybe hopefully be of service as well. Maybe it could inspire you or to have some self-realizations as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into Sacinandana Swami's wisdom.
Very much, Maharaj, for doing this. I really appreciate it. The question I had for you was, if you could give one piece of advice to society as a whole, just before you pass, what would that be? What do you feel passionate about?
Know where your treasures lie. We often look for fulfillment outside in things that money can buy, in recognition from others, maybe in travel and so on. But you need to travel inside. You need to go inside, because it is inside where the soul and where the Lord lies. And maybe the gravest mistake by people in this modern time is that they have lost the inner sacred dimension, and therefore, like deers who have lost the place where they can drink water, they run everywhere trying to find that which is inside in the outside world. This is what I'm really passionate about. I was once asked by a journalist on the TV, what is your contribution to the world? And I said, I help people to build temples in the heart.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that clip with Sacinandana Swami. I know it was really wisdom packed, so I'd really suggest you have a rewatch of it a few times just to allow his words to really hit home and to deeply understand what he's truly trying to say. I'm so grateful that he actually allowed me to record and, show off some of his wisdom to my audience as well. But let's get straight into the second part of the podcast, which is to do with my insights and self-realizations during the trip. So realization number one is that there's real power in association. I, like many others, have been conditioned to buy into this lone wolf mentality. Although I do believe that having this certain level of independence and self-sufficiency within your life or spiritual life is very, very important, I do feel like you're limiting your growth if you don't have a certain level of association. And that true growth happens when there is a dynamic balance between individualism and association as well. But why is association so powerful? Firstly, I'm sure we all know the standard quote that we are the product of the five people that surround us. And I know it's so common, but before this, I would truly brush it off, right? Because it was so repetitive. But I think during this trip, I truly realized the importance of it. I was surrounded by a number of determined and service oriented people for around a week. It truly inspired me to take my growth really seriously. And I don't think I would have pursued my spiritual growth so much if it weren't for that association. And doing things that were probably unthinkable, like waking up at 3:45 for prayers in the morning, were truly made easier because I was in the correct groups and the correct association. So doing the right things just became easier, and I had almost a wind in my sails because I knew that I was in a beautiful environment to grow and thrive as well. The second thing is that I do believe it's important to learn from your mistakes, but it's so great to be able to learn from the mistakes of others because that prevents us from making those mistakes in our lives itself. And we learn from the experiences of others and ensure that we don't come through the same pitfalls because that just improves the efficiency of our growth as well. I think Jim Rohn once said that it's important to learn from your mistakes. It's better to learn from the mistakes of others, and it's the best to learn from the successes of others. And then finally, association allows you to consciously share with others. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean exposing everything in your life because oversharing is a pitfall in itself. But I do think it's important to have an association which you can go to when you have difficulties and challenges, right? Understanding who in your association is adequate to be able to speak to about certain challenges and certain pitfalls you may have in your life because their experiences and their understanding may be far greater than yours. And taking their wisdom and understanding is so important and may actually improve the efficiency of your growth as well. So being conscious about what you're sharing with your association and allowing yourself to grow based upon the teachings of others is something which I felt was phenomenal as well, and I truly experienced during this trip. The second realization I had was that it's important to always be a student of life. When I first went on the trip, I thought I had a great grasp of spirituality and meditation, but boy was I humbled. I think Geshe Maharaj really summarizes it well when he said that when you are full of yourself, you don't leave any space for anything new. I think this is so important because when we're open minded to new perspectives and new ideas, especially when they may not be congruent to what we had been conditioned to view or any perspectives that we had before, I think that's when we're truly open to new growth. And I think it's such a great skill to have. My third realization was that any growth that is worthwhile is hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, but so beautiful at the end. And this really reflected my trip. For example, during this trip, I had a real purge of my insecurities. The reason that this purge happened was because there were no material distractions and no real digital distractions, because there was a lack of connection or Wi-Fi and so on. So you really had to sit with yourself and really listen to your thoughts and observe what's going on within you. And this purge was so difficult for me, especially in the beginning days. But after the experience, I realized that it's so beautiful, because I felt a real fruition when I came through on the other side. So, insight number 4 that I took away from the trip was that it's important to take time out in order to become more efficient. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, in this material world and in our daily lives, we're often conditioned by societal views and also material desires. And what taking time out allows you to do, maybe even going on a retreat, is that it allows you to peel away these layers of conditioning and begin to rest, reflect, and introspect on what's truly important. In a recent lecture I watched, I heard the story of the axeman, and I thought it'd be valuable to share it with you guys. And this story involved an axeman who would try and chop down trees every day. And one day he began to reflect and realize that this job is becoming increasingly difficult. I'm exerting the same amount of effort, but I'm cutting less trees down. So what he decided to do next was to begin to work harder and think that putting in more effort will actually resolve his issue. But little did he realize that it actually made the job even more difficult, and with time, his performance started to degrade. So one day he decided to take a day out. He decided to spend time resting, but also sharpening his axe. And then he went back, and his ability to chop down trees and his efficiency to do his job became exponentially better. Now, what's the moral in this story? Well, first of all, the axeman took out time to rest and recuperate, and that's important for us. And secondly, he took time to be able to sharpen his tools. Now, sharpening your tools means, in our case, giving us the ability to reflect and introspect so we can reflect on what's truly important to us, as this allows us to be more timely, directed, and efficient with our limited energy when we come back into the real world. And although taking time out may sound counterintuitive because we're not really doing anything and it's not stereotypically productive, our effectiveness in the world significantly improves, and our ability to serve humanity significantly improves as well. Insight number 5 is that there is a real power in early rising and morning rituals. When you start your day by connecting with a higher power and setting serviceful intentions, your day becomes more energetic and focused. And I noticed that when we were waking up at 3:45 in the morning and conducting various rituals and setting intentions, and I felt a real power throughout the day. Even though I was waking up really early, I still remained very energetic throughout the day. And I think this is summarized by Leon Wills really well. Run your mornings, don't let your mornings run you. Lesson number 6 is that there's a real power in letting go and surrendering to things we can't control. At the start of the trip, I was carrying a lot of inhibitions and baggage, right? It meant that the trip was made more difficult for myself than it really needed to be in the beginning. And it was only once I had a conversation with a spiritual leader who I'm hoping to have on this podcast did I really realize that it was so important to surrender and let go of things we can't control. Because we're not in control of a lot of things in life as well. And what that allowed me to do was really take a weight off my shoulders and really let go and actually enjoy the experience of the retreat and also the experience of life in general a lot more. I'd like to tell a story about one night in which the whole group went to the rooftop of the medieval castle. And because we were in the Belgian countryside, you were able to see so many stars in the sky. And deep within me, I realized how insignificant we were. But there's real power in this insignificance, because once we realize this, we understand that there is so much power in this existence generally. And if there's power in this existence and in this universe, or the multiple universes there are, then there's real power within each and every one of us as well. And that was also a big realization and turning point for me as well. And the seventh and final lesson, one which I thought I'd keep short and sweet, it's that love is not easy, but lust is easy. And I'll just let that as it is, because I think it's such a powerful quote in itself. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. I know I really enjoyed recording it and really recollecting some of the memories from the trip, because it was such a sweet experience for myself. I hope that you really took away some insights, or, I hope that this was of service to you guys, right? Because I know this was more of a video journal style of podcast, but I hope that you took away some insights or reflections yourself. And if you did, then I'd be so grateful if you could share them with me. I'd love to hear from some of you. I'd like to create a community as well. So any insights or any sharing of reflections would be genuinely appreciated. If you did enjoy this podcast, then please do like and share on social media. I'd be very grateful. And I'll catch you guys next time on the Warrior Monk Project.